Right, hi there. Sorry for the bit of a delay there. I kind of got tangled up in USB leads and phones, and I had a bit of software that wasn't cooperating, so we're all fixed now and ready to go on with the next one, which is all about, actually, the only thing anybody really cares about is how do I send an email with attachments. So that is in this module, but also it's kind of mixed up with the topics of contacts and appointments. So it's all about interacting. This kind of is loosely about interacting with, finding out the contacts on the phone and then interacting with them. So we're going to look at the contacts access using the windows.applicationmodel.contacts namespace. And we're going to look at messaging. Now, messaging is like sending SMS and sending emails. And we're going to have, and also have a quick look at calendar access through the windows.applicationmodel.appointments API. So, the first thing to say about both of these sets of data, contacts and calendar, is that there are a bunch of different providers that give you information that contribute to the kind of amalgamated view that you see when you go to the People Hub or when you go to the calendar. Both of those apps are showing you this combined view of your contacts from all of the different social networks you are a part that you've configured on your phone. So those contacts are all there, all mixed up together. And in actual fact, I'm sure, as you'll know if you've got a Windows phone, when you go to a particular contact, what you're seeing in one contact is you've quite often got a contact is a linked entity where you've linked the Facebook version of that contact with your Microsoft account, maybe with an Exchange contact. So it all ends up as being, because it's the same person, you link all that information together. So all of those different account providers can contribute to the data that you can access. So some of the data is fully accessible programmatically. Others, for contractual reasons, you kind of you'll only get maybe the picture and their contact details. So first of all, let's look at contacts in this kind of out of those two. And before we kind of dig into programmatically how you access those contacts, there's one particular concept that applies both to contacts and to calendar APIs that you need to understand. And that is this idea of brokered versus direct access APIs. So essentially what this means is that the brokered APIs means that the phone gets involved in it. It's the same as if you saw the last session yesterday, we were talking about file open pickers and file save pickers and the share picking and the share contract. All of those, the shell kind of gets involved in the middle and sticks up some UI. What that means is that as soon as the control goes from your app over to the shell APIs, then the user is fully in control. So it's up to them whether they select the contact or they send that email or they pick that file. They're involved. It basically means that you don't need any special capabilities in the manifest when you use these brokered APIs. Contact Picker is the brokered API for contacts. Now, if you don't want to use the contact picker, you don't have to, because you can still get programmatic access to the full list of contacts. But this is what you call the direct access APIs, where you're not borrowing the built-in apps API. You are going to you might use the built-in apps API, but you might also choose to put your own API up. So your own UI up. Sorry, get this right. So if you're providing your own UI. And getting programmatic access to contacts data, then you need to declare the contacts capability in the manifest. And the same applies with appointments, where you need to put the appointments capability into the manifest. So this is a table that gives you a list of the different contact APIs. Brokered ones at the top basically means for Windows Phone, Contact Picker. On Windows, we've also got Contact Manager.show contact card and show delay loaded contact card. We don't support contact cards on Windows Phone. Underneath that, the direct access ones where you can request a store with request store async, and that gives you programmatic access to then do find contacts async through that store object. And then that will return, you're doing a search that will return one or more contact objects that you can then get the information out of. For Silverlight 8.1 apps, Contact Picker, the brokered UI, is not available, but the direct access Windows Runtime APIs are all available. Actually, Silverlight Apps has a bunch of launchers and choosers still accessible to it, which have been available since Windows Phone 7.x days. They're listed at the bottom, so you can actually get at contacts details that way. So there's kind of both the Windows Runtime apps and Windows Silverlight apps have kind of equivalent capabilities, but perhaps not quite the same way. So first of all, using the Contact Picker. The Contact Picker, new it up. Then there's a couple of fields that you might set if you're using this API on Windows, and there's a convergence point here. If you try and set those properties in shared code, if you've got a universal app, if you try and set them in the Windows Phone head, you'll actually get a not supported exception. So you'll need to #ifdef those out if you're sharing code in a universal app. So you can't set the commit button text or the selection mode. Those are not supported, and in fact you can't even set them. Then on Windows Phone, again, with Windows, there's this desired fields with contact field type. So you can say to the Contact Picker, I want to get back the email, or I want to get back the phone number, or I want to get back the address from this search. And you've got to set one of them, and only one of them on phone. On Windows, on big Windows, you can select one or more of them. So once you've configured the Contact Picker instance, then you just call pick contact async. And at that point, control switches over to the kind of built-in dialog on the phone. So you're seeing the Contact Picker choose a contact dialog, which you can see on the right there. That's actually a shell bit of UI. You don't program that. This is what's invoked by calling pick contact async. You can also pick Pick contacts async allows you to select multiple contacts, and you just get the same UI, but this time with checkboxes. You even get checkboxes that expand out, and you can choose, if you've got this example where we've asked for the address, you can choose between the home address and the work address. So very flexible UI it gives you for free. For the direct access APIs, we've got this contact manager.requestStoreAsync call. That method gives you back a contact store object, and that's the gateway to doing searches, programmatic searches against contacts. You do need the contacts capability for this. So then you can call find contacts async. This one is parameterless, so you're just getting all the contacts. You can supply a search string, so it will match on, like, email address or name or some such, or the phone number, and then. Well, we're just putting up popping up a message dialog that to show you how many we've got. So that's how you get programmatic access, and then you can work with the contact data. Now, what you get back from our search is a collection, a read-only list of contact. So it's read-only list. You can't actually change the contact through this. And it has a bunch of properties, loads of them. So you can go and have a look at the documentation. There's a little sample of what you get over there: addresses, connected service accounts, the display name, obviously the emails, and all the various different fields. So you can get lots of information back about the contact. Right, I've got a simple little demo to show you how this works. I've got the Contact Picker. I'm going to run this on the emulator. And it is it's a simply stunning UI. There we go.
Oh,
how good is that?
That took a while.
That did. Yeah, I spent a long time dreaming up that UI, I tell you. What happens when I hit the button? Not a lot. So what happens is button click. So here we go. It's actually what you saw on the slide. We new up a Contact Picker. We add just one of these. The others are commented out, but just to show you how you can do it. Then we call pick contact async. And then this is unawaitable. There's no and continue on this, perhaps strangely, compared to some of the other APIs that have done that sort of pattern. So we're then going to see if we've got a contact back. If we have got a contact, we're going to stick up a dialog to show the picked contact details. We're back in the app at that point, and we're actually going to save that contact for future use. So let's actually go and do that. Not that one, this guy. Pick the contact. I've actually entered 3 contacts onto this. So there's me, Jumpstart 001 with a stunning thing, and then Matthias there. I'm going to pick Jumpstart 001. Now we're back in our app. We've got the contact, and we've got that phone number that was associated with that contact. Not very complicated. Nice and simple, in fact.
Very cool.
Yeah. I've also got this contact searcher, so let's stop that. And this is using the Direct API, so let's just run that up. Set that as the startup project and run that one instead. And this one, it's probably got an equally stunning UI.
That's running on the device, I think.
You do?
I think that's running on the device.
Oh. Oh, right. Yes. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Yes, okay, let's go back to the emulator and try again. That's why I was staring at you thinking, is nothing happening? Okay, here we go. Ah, yeah, how about that? The UI gets better. The UI gets better. Actually, it has got a list on here. So what we've actually got is a button and a list view. So we're going to list our contacts when we've got them back. Now, the first time I hit this button, it's going to fail because unauthorized access exception. Of
course.
Because I haven't asked for that capability. So let's go in and ask for that capability because this is using the Direct Access APIs. These capabilities, we need to have contacts. So we can run that up again. And this time, we found 3 contacts and we're listing them on the screen. How about that? Breathtaking UI. And the code for that is pretty simple as well. Here's the search contacts. We called request store async. We awaited find the contacts. We got our response back. We popped up our dialog to say, yeah, we found 3 contacts. And then all we did is the list view on the screen said it's item source to that collection of contacts. Obviously, that's a pretty dumb example, but you might think of something more interesting that you could do with that. Right, some differences from Windows Store apps. Contact cards are not supported on the Windows Phone. So there's this thing called contact cards, which are kind of little transient UI that pops up in a Windows Store app running on big Windows. And there's a couple of APIs around that, which are show contact card and show delay loaded contact card. We don't have those on Windows Phone. And also there's this thing called contact action. So if you do have these contact cards, it comes up with a kind of an abbreviated little view of a contact. And there are links on there like send an email or get a map to the contact's address. And you can actually link to those. So those are built into the little UI. And you can actually activate particular apps to handle those when the user taps on those links. We don't have that. And there's some contact-related app extensions that are also tied in with that. So a few things, we've only got a subset of the capabilities we've got on big Windows. That kind of reflects the fact that we're not going to want to have transient UI on a phone screen in quite the same way. You can code up your own solution that does something similar. But you can also have app custom contact stores. An application can create a custom contact store. So an application can have its own collection of contacts. Which you can add this time it can add contacts in directly without user confirmation. Any contacts you add in that way will also show up on the People Hub on the phone mixed in with all the regular contacts. So they just become, first party contacts as far as users of your phone are concerned. But they actually they are belonged by your app. So what actually interesting, you can actually add. So they can be linked because they're kind of in the same way as I said. You can have a linked contact that is a linked one entity that is a Microsoft account entity, a Facebook entity, and you know that these are all the same people, so you link them together. In the same way, you could have a My Awesome Contacts app entity, and that could be linked to other contacts on the phone. You can also add custom properties into these custom contacts of yours that are hidden. So you can store some additional data associated with that contact, which you can use programmatically. To create a custom contact, you create or open a sync contact store. So this is creating this would create or open an existing app custom store for your app. Then you create a new stored contact object, set some properties on it. This is just a subset of the few that you can set. And then that iDictionary string object props there, that's how you put in these kind of hidden properties that you can have associated with a custom contact that you can use a bit like tags, if you like, that would enable your particular app scenario to work. And then you call contact.saveasync. and an application can search through it. Now, the interesting thing is that a user obviously the app can see its own contacts and can get them and can enumerate them and can change them. If the user tries to edit one of these custom contacts through the regular People Hub, what will actually happen is you'll get a dialogue such as that shown on the screen there. The user gets a dialogue like that saying, actually, you can't change. Well, this particular custom app is called Make a Contact. You can't change the details for that contact on your phone, but you can add additional details. So what it actually does is it creates an additional phone contact with the same name and then links it to your Make a contact. So you end up with a linked contact on the phone, which to the end user's point of view is editable. They can add stuff to it and phone numbers and pictures and all that sort of thing. Doesn't change anything for the custom contact part of that linked entity that still belongs to your app. Right, so now having talked through contacts, now the interesting bit that everybody's been waiting for. No, not this one. Well, you can send an SMS. You can send an SMS. And the way you do that is this windows.applicationmodel.chat message. And you can set a body in there. You can set a title. You can add recipients to it, put numbers on there. And then you just call chatMessageManager.showCompose SMS message async. And that will link into the normal messaging app. But then the user is in control again. These are another kind of brokered UI, if you like. There are some other, people will search in using an object, will look through the API sets, and there are other APIs in this namespace which would kind of allow you to create a custom SMS messaging app that can handle incoming and become the SMS messaging app. Those are restricted, so they're not unfortunately for the general third-party app developer. So you need to contact Microsoft if you want to build one of those special apps and get specially provisioned to do that. Sending an email, still no attachments. Don't worry, it's coming, it's coming. And so you can just send a boring email with a body in it, and you new up your email message object. You can add email recipients to it, such as that shown there. And then you call emailmanager.showCompose new email sync. And again, it will just launch into the built-in email app. That will fail if you haven't got any email accounts configured on your phone, as I discovered last week when I was testing on a phone that I was convinced had email. It had loads of contacts and everything, but I just unchecked sync email in the settings, and so you'll get an exception, so be warned. All right. Hey, sending email with attachments. There are two ways of doing this, actually. The first is perhaps kind of an accidental way, so this is not quite the cleanest way. Yesterday we talked about the being a sharing source, and we talked about you can share files. So if and sharing source doesn't know who the share target is. That's up to the user. They select who to share with. So your app just shares some stuff out, and it could share simple text, but what it can also do is share files. So if you share files, and then the user in the picker, like that's the top picture on the right there, where you've got the share. This is the share picker UI that the shell puts up when your app is asked to share something. If they choose Outlook, then it will launch into Outlook, and you will be into a new email message, and your file will be sitting there as an attachment to that new email message. The user's uncontrolled and is in the email app then, and they do their business, send their email, do send, and then it will switch back to your source app again. But the more direct way of doing it is to use emailmanager.showCompose new email async and pass in one or more file attachments. And an interesting side note about this: if you send it, they allow the user to choose a large high def photo from their camera roll, they will be automatically downsized by the email app as they're sent out. So this is the code to send it directly. An example there, we've got a storage file where we're getting a file that's in the app local storage at the moment, localfolder.getFileAsync. And when you do this with an email attachment, it needs one of these random access stream reference objects. Fortunately, they're actually very easy to create from a file. You just call random access stream reference.create from file and pass it that storage file object. So that will give a random access stream into it, and then you can new up an email attachment object, give it the name, and then pass it that random access stream object. And then you new up your email message, attach your recipients, and this time you'll attach an email attachment object as well. And obviously you can have more than one email attachment. And then you call show compose new email async, which is this is exactly the same as the boring one I showed you before, but with the difference that we've got the email async on there. Okay. So next we'll actually just give a demo of that, and you have to watch me here, Matthias, make sure I don't do the wrong thing. I borrowed Matthias's phone for this because I tried to configure. You can actually configure an email account on an emulator. Get the right button.
Power button on the top.
Yay. So there we go. This is a phone.
This is a non-Nokia phone, the HTC.
Yeah, okay, and keeps going off. Go on. Okay, thank you. Right, so there, we're in the phone, and I'm going to open open a next sample, which is it's actually the same one. It's not the different one at all. It's this one again, Contact Picker. Yeah, set as a startup project. But this time I want to go to the device because this has got an email account configured on it. You can, like I said, you can actually configure the emulator normally, but I think it's possibly because I've got a UK PC and I'm in the wrong time zone, and who knows why, but I just couldn't get it to work before. But normally you can just add an email address and it will sync all your contacts, and life is good. But that didn't work, so I'm going to run this on the device, and you'll notice there are some other buttons on this. This pick contact, that's kind of pick contact button at the top, so we can pick our contact, and we're going to go and find the Jumpstart contact, which we've carefully added to provide non-controversial data, and it's got the mobile number 555-555-5555. So we've picked a contact, and we can send an SMS. And I think here we are. We've gone into the to send to Jumpstart. So we're sending a text SMS to this user. We can send it to 555, and who knows what will happen? No. Oh, there's no SIM card in it. Ah, that's too bad. But actually, that's fine. I'm quite cool with that.
Right.
What that code was? That is just that simple. So the that recipient, that picked contact, the SMS one, I picked the phone number that we got from that picked contact and put that in as a recipient. There was the body, and we just called show compose SMS message async to launch into that. So that was kind of interesting, and we can get better now. We go back from there, and we can send an email, and now it actually puts up it chooses a picker to send there. We're into to send it to myself, sending a test email sent from my Windows phone. We could send that, but again, I'm not going to bother because I don't want to. Don't want to get an email like that. And we can send an email with attachment, which allows us to pick a photo, or actually I can take a new picture. Just take a picture of there's Matthias. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Accept. And yeah, we're sending that by Google Mail, and this time there it is. Our picture is embedded into the email. Yeah, that's really nice. So is this on Wi-Fi? No, I don't really want that picture. Get rid of that. Kill. Go away. Thank you. And we're back in our app. So nice and easy. Right, lastly and not leastly, working with appointments. Whoa, what a complicated slide. Actually, this is kind of similar to the one I showed for contacts. We've got brokered APIs where you don't need the appointments capability, and it calls into the built-in calendar app. And there's a whole bunch of APIs you can call, called show add appointment async, show appointment details async, show edit new appointment async, show remove appointment async, show replace appointment async, show time frame async. So you can go and show and edit and add. You can link into the kind of normal appointments dialogues that a user is used to using, and all those are available. there are, of course, this direct access where you can request an appointment store and then act and work on it to work with appointment calendars and appointments. It looks complicated, and it is, but what you need to think about is 3 kinds of apps. First of all, there's apps that create standard appointments in the regular calendar. So they just want to launch the built-in calendar app UI and allow the user from your app to add in, remove, or replace appointments. So it's kind of programmatically interacting with the built-in calendar app. So nice and simple. Then there's the second category is calendar view apps. So the first one you just need the brokered UI. The second one, calendar view apps, this is where, well, you might show some of the standard calendar app UI, but you want to actually provide some of your own calendar UI as well. So you want to programmatically get back appointment details, and then you might put them up in your own UI for whatever reason. And these will use the direct access APIs to programmatically get appointment details back. And then you can still use, there are instance versions of the show add, show edit, all those kind of those show APIs that were in the brokered UI. You can still call of them as well down here in order to pull up the kind of the standard UI in order to work with those appointments. But the third one is, this is where you're a completely new custom appointment calendar. You want to be the appointment calendar. You want to replace the built-in one. So this is where you are a big shot in this game, like Facebook or somebody. And this would have its own appointments calendar and also throw up its own particular UI. But it's still working with appointments type entities, and you might also want to be putting those appointments into the phone so you get alarms and reminders and visibility in the regular appointments app hub all the time as well. So those are the 3 categories. So first of all, using the brokered UIs for creating an appointment, well, you need to get a date and time, and you need to work with date-time offset objects. So this is important, to use the time zone offset to find out what your local time zone offset is, and then create a new date-time offset object and include that time zone offset in it. So this is all about getting dates to be correct wherever you are, which of course is always something that's tricky to do. Set a start time, subject, and this sort of thing, and then call appointment manager.show add appointment async. There's loads of other appointment APIs, of course, show remove, show edit new, show replace as well. You can easily find an appointment in the calendar app and show details of it, and actually you can simply show the calendar app for a particular time zone very easily as well. Let's just give you a quick look at what that looks like. Very simple, a little demo. I think we're done with you. Thank you. So, first of all, where's my emulator gone? I didn't run it. Let's run it. Okay, there's my emulator. And first of all, I'm going to, we can actually find the, we're in, oh, hang on, I'm running the wrong one, that's why. Confused. Appointments brokered UIs, let's run that one instead. These are the brokered UIs, you don't need an appointments capability. And this one is going to pop up, and yeah, we can show the calendar. That's exciting. This is just going to the regular built-in calendar app, yeah, there's nothing much happening on this emulator, is there? No, nothing happening.
The emulator has a lonely social life.
Yeah. Oh, that's really tragic. There we go. So nothing at all happening. But this is just a regular calendar app, and you invoked it from our app. Obviously, you won't be surprised to see the code is trivial to do that. Where are you? Okay, there we go. Yeah, so we've set a time zone offset from us. The start date is datetime.now, but we've applied the date time zone offset, and we said, oh, I'm interested in, well, that's just a hint, actually. It's completely ignored on the phone. On big windows, you can say, oh, I want to see a month or a day or a year or something, but this one just launches into the regular phone thing. Now, the other one, the other button on the screen, this one, create appointment, actually launches into a much more complicated thing. So we can say jumpstart. This is just some UI that my app has thrown up, which allows me to enter some details. But you could supply all of this programmatically. So yeah, well, let's say it's all day. Why not? Yeah, there's kind of loads of stuff, organizer and everything. I'm not going to bother putting any of that. And we just say create appointment. Now this is the built-in calendar API. So which kind of looks the same, because actually that's kind of a weird demo. So really what you would do in a real app is you'd get some information from the user, whatever your app scenario is, in whatever way. You would populate an appointments object with as much data as you've got, and then you would call show add appointments, which is exactly what this has done. I'll show you the code over here. So this is an adapted version of a UI SDK sample, which is why it's so verbose. But here we go, we're setting the subject. I could have filled in loads of dates, loads of fields on that UI. But basically what this is saying is I'm just populating an appointment object. And finally, when we've populated it all, there's no, we haven't got there yet, appointment, appointees, participants. This is how rich an appointment object is. Finally, we call, add appointment to calendar async, go to definition. Which is this method here, which all it does is calls appointment manager.show add appointment async. And we get back an appointment ID. So we save it and say, yeah, we're good with that. And there's appointment ID shown at the bottom there. So we've actually allowed our app to programmatically create an appointment. The other one, the one that I accidentally wrote up before, is it got up before, is the programmatic access, where you can find all appointments. I'm going to search for appointments. I'm going to hit this search button. And first of all, it gives you back a list of calendars. Actually, there's a phone calendar, and if you, on a normal device, you'd actually see a list of them. So if you have a Hotmail account configured, for example, or an Outlook.com account configured, you actually see public holidays calendar and your personal calendar. There's loads of different calendars. This one has only got one, and if I click on it, there's one appointment in it, which is the Jumpstart appointment, which I just created. And the code for doing all of that is this get appointments in here. So what we did to achieve that is, first of all, on the button I requested the appointment store here, and then using that appointment store I find all the calendars, and I put the calendars into a calendars list view, which is this blue one here. And then when I hit calendars list view selection changed, I got that appointment calendar. I then did find appointments async for all appointments in that particular calendar. And then I put that to the screen. And lastly, this bottom one, when I click that, what's going to happen is this is going to happen. I'm going to get again, another reference to the store, and then I'm going to call appointment store show appointment details async, and that is going to call into the regular app again, and this is now we're into sort of the brokered UIs again. This is the user's normal experience for working with appointments, and we can edit it, or we can delete it, and all the rest of it. Oh, I just did all that. There you go. That's a normal example with some more different calendars on it, which I did on a real device, which is kind of a little bit more interesting. Finding appointments, this is actually the code I just showed you there. And adding appointments, this is where you're calling out to the brokered UI to go and do that. And actually, I just showed you that demo, so we're done. So that's it for calendars and appointments. There's actually much more to it than that. There's this idea of calendar and appointments. They actually roam between devices. So there's a concept that's important to understand, which is the local IDs and remote IDs. But I'm afraid just isn't time in this format to go into that kind of detail. So if you could please consult the documentation. We are going to take a short break, and then for 10 minutes. And then Matthias is going to be back to take us through cameras and video, which is a great session as well. See you soon.